Hi again, this is Dr. Michael Bogart, and welcome back to our video series Exploring World Religions. In this 14th series of videos, we'll be looking at two major branches of Christianity, Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Now, every religious group has a history, so to fully understand these two groups, we need to take a running start. If you watch Series 13, where I explain Jesus and early Christianity, you'll have a basic understanding of Christianity as it had developed around the year 400 AD. It had grown from a tiny movement among Jews who believed that Jesus was their Messiah to a separate religious group that included both Jews and Gentiles, and it encompassed most of the Roman Empire and many lands beyond. But what happened after that? Well, to put it simply, the Roman Empire was beginning to fall apart. There are several reasons why this was happening. For example, a sprawling empire that had reached the limits of manageability, government overspending, repressive laws, a series of poor crop years, plague, and probably the straw that broke the camel's back, massive barbarian invasions. Now, Rome had tried to solve some of these problems in the 300s by splitting itself administratively into a Greek cultural east and a Latin cultural west. The East managed to survive these devastations, fading and shrinking gradually for 10 centuries until it fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. But the West began to crumble in the early 400s and then collapsed around 475. With the disintegration of the western provinces of Rome, and that would be lands in modern countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, France, and Britain, these regions experienced a leadership vacuum. In the 6th century, the old Roman system was replaced for the most part with a collection of Germanic barbarian kingdoms. But there was one major survivor from the old Roman order to fill this vacuum, and that was the Christian church. The church still had lots of influence. It transcended the borders of barbarian kingdoms, which were themselves beginning to turn away from their pagan past to the new religion, Christianity. Because the church had its own resources, its own highly organized and disciplined leadership structure, it was far less intimidated by the barbarian onslaught. For example, it was not the cowardly emperor, but the Bishop of Rome, Leo I, who saved Rome from the Huns in 452 and later from the Vandals a few years later in 455. All over the formerly Roman West, remnants of Roman civilization were salvaged by bishops and other church leaders who either stood up to the barbarians, negotiated with them, or converted them to Christianity and to what was left of Roman tradition. So it's no wonder that the church quickly became a major power broker in this new barbarian Europe, and it steadily grew in influence into what we think of as the Middle Ages. The church also experienced important changes. From a persecuted and vulnerable minority with a loose leadership structure, it became highly organized and hierarchical. The first bishop of Rome that was recognizable as what we would now think of as a pope was Gregory I, or Gregory the Great, and he took office around 590. He routinely dominated other bishops, he standardized church music and worship, and he sent the first official missionaries to the Germanic Anglo-Saxons who had conquered Roman Britain and set up English kingdoms. In terms of Christian teaching, there had also been major developments, not so much in core beliefs, but in their applications to a chaotic world. Augustin of Hippo was born in 354 and died in 430. He was certainly the greatest of the early Catholic theologians, speaking to the issues of heresy, the shock of the barbarian invasions, and the development of Christian teaching. One of his major literary works, still studied today, is The City of God, in which he explains the crumbling Roman world and the eternal kingdom of God. And in his writings, Augustine saw the church as the custodian of God's grace provided by Christ in a world largely lost in chaos and darkness. Other great writers and theologians of this time included writers like Athanasius, Basil the Great, and John Chrysostom. Another important development was monasticism. Almost from the beginning of Christianity, there had been individuals who had separated from society to live a rigorous spiritual life. But the first organized community of monks was founded by Benedict of Nursia in 500 in the central Italian town of Monte Cassino. The Benedictine order had a simple rule. All monks participated in daily work, study, and prayer. Benedictine monasteries and convents were soon established all over the Catholic world. Core doctrines clarified by the early church have remained the same for major branches of Christianity. For example, creeds like the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed are still used today by Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and most Protestants. Core doctrines are held in common. It's the secondary doctrines and dogmas that have separated the different branches of the Christian church. Okay, so much for clip 1 and video session 14 within the Exploring World Religions series. I hope this overview of early Christianity into the Middle Ages was helpful. In clip 2, we'll move on from the historical background to Roman Catholicism itself, and I think that knowing this historical background will go a long way in making real sense of Roman Catholicism to modern people. Till then, this is Dr. Michael Bogart. We'll see you then.